Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning into my video. My name is Jacqueline Delgado. As you can tell from the picture on the screen, I'm going to be talking about hip hop. More specifically, how has hip hop influenced society throughout the decades? And I'll be starting from the 1970s to present day. And I'll also be giving you a little background information on hip hop and what kind of theory I'll be looking at. So, throughout this project, I'll be looking and discussing about hip-hop through the lens of functionalism, more specifically through A.R. Radcliffe Brown. So a little background about Radcliffe Brown. He was a British anthropologist, and he was born in 1881, and he died in 1955. So he developed structural functionalism or functionalism, and according to Radcliffe Brown, functionalism is a society that has a set of institutions that serve as systems of relationships. What I mean by this is that through hip hop, it is a social cultural system that functions to provide members of a society with networks of stable social relationships. So, with that being said, I will take you on through the presentation of what is hip hop. So, what is hip hop? Hip hop is more than just a style of music. It is a dancey style, a way of speaking, and for some, a way of life. Now, hip hop is divided into 4 elements, as you can see from the picture on the screen. It's divided between breakdancing, emceeing, which is being able to control a crowd through a microphone, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. And the 4 basic ones I'll be focusing on today is graffiti art, political movement, and influential artists during certain decades. So, how it all started. Hip-hop is a subculture and an art movement that developed in the South Bronx in New York City during the late 1970s. It emerged from neighborhood block parties thrown by clubs, music groups, and gangs. It actually helped bridge racial groups like African Americans, Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, and other ethnic groups during this time. So, the 1970s. I'm pretty sure some of you guys are familiar with the show The Get Down, and how it focuses on the 1970s and how it was first brought about. And in the literature reviews, it was brought up by a couple people known as the Ghetto Brothers. The Ghetto Brothers was a gang. Was mostly known as a gang. They developed music, and within the 1970s, they developed percussions, which was basically taking a song and repeating a certain type of beat over and over again that people were able to dance to. So you weren't just able to hear the lyrics, but you were mainly emphasizing on the beat and getting people to be able to dance to it, or even rap to it, which was another thing that was brought about in the 1970s. So another thing that was really emphasized was graffiti art. Graffiti art was everywhere on the East Coast, specifically in the proverbs, like low-income communities, like the South Bronx. You found graffiti art on the side of the buildings, on broken down subway carts. Majority of the time, it was names of people that tagged. Sometimes you were able to get known through that, and you might have been involved in gangs. Depended on the person. But it was also a way of you getting known if you knew how to talk to people, if you know how to work the people around you, and say that you were rapping or emceeing, and people knew about you because of your name. So, the 1980s. The 1980s was a little different. More technology was built, and more people came into the South Bronx. It was a little more built up. It wasn't as run down as in the 1970s. So one of the big forms of music was the big boom boxes. Those were people would carry around with them, and a lot of youth would carry them and go by a park or some public area and start breakdancing. So breakdancing was a very big movement within young African American Latino communities. It was a way of just expressing yourself. It sometimes looked a little violent because of what type of message you were trying to convey with your body. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was just you having fun with your friends, like in the picture you see on the screen. So it expressed a lot of different things. It was very much a form of nonverbal communication. Now, it also helped youth get to say what they weren't able to say with their words. Sometimes during this time, people actually made groups and try to go on tour and things like that to get, to help out their community and just try to reinforce them and try to get known. So, and there was also a lot of graffiti art. It was everywhere, just like before. So that there was a lot more regulation on graffiti art. If you were caught doing graffiti art, a bunch of the times, police would try to run after you, try to put you in jail, most predominantly in low-income areas, where it was just much more easier to get youth or people that were previously already in jail. As you can see on one of the pictures on the left-hand side, a lot of minorities were actually scared of the police back then because of just how much police brutality was going on and what was actually happening. So moving on to the 1990s. I'm pretty sure a lot of you tuning into this video grew up in the 1990s, and you guys know a lot of these faces that are on the screen, like Queen Latifah, Missy Elliott, Will Smith, of course, and NWA. And some of these artists were actually super influential within this time. They mainly advocated things like stopping to imprison youth and trying to vocalize all the injustices that were going on throughout this time. It was very much a big movement in politics, and them just trying to stay equal and trying to save and survive within the economy that was built in during this time. So some of the most influential artists during this time was Jay-Z, the Notorious Big, and of course Tupac. They very much advocated toward helping the youth and getting it known that what's going on was not okay, and just trying to make it a normal conversation that people talked about, and trying to get people more educated on issues that were going on, especially people that weren't necessarily minorities. They tried to also break that. They also tried to break that stereotype of that all minorities are the same. And for that, we are very grateful. So moving on to the 2000s. The 2000s was very, very much different. It consisted a lot from music. If you look at music back in the day in the early 2000s, you can see that it was very much sexualized. Women were very sexualized. It talked a lot about drugs and violence, and that was obviously seen in a lot of the videos. But it was also just a form of who you were, and in 2000 it also emphasized a lot on the fashion. It was during 2000 it was very interesting to see how from the 1970s to the 2000s, fashion had evolved within hip hop. So as you can see on the screen, it was very much the bling. As you can see on Kanye, he had the watch, the gold chain, baggy shirts, and baggy pants. For the women, it was very much gold and bling, and emphasizing that you had a lot of probably what wasn't real. But it was also a form of them trying to feel okay within themselves. It wasn't a form of, oh, I'm going to sexualize my body within the way I'm dressing. It was just a form of, that's how they used to dress. So, political movements. During the 2000s, it was not as emphasized as it was during the 90s. It died down a lot because of the type of music that was coming out and the type of dancing styles that were also coming out. It wasn't so much on breakdancing and trying to get a point across to your body. It was more sexualized. It was partner to partner very much. But it, as you can see, it also just evolved from breakdancing to what it is now, which is twerking and grinding for a lot of millennials that know about it. So moving on to present day, just like in how it used to be, artists like Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and Chance the Rapper, very much advocates of trying to get our civil rights and equal as to the Caucasian population. It was trying to voice it out, and it is getting a lot more known. It advocates on not just only police brutality, but also on black on black crime, and as we know, that is very much a big factor in what is going on today in a lot of the poorer communities. So you can see hip hop has very much evolved from just dancing to a beat to saying what is going on in politics today. It has evolved. It was very much a social structure. It was a set of systems that changed and continue to change, and it was very much a big movement, and still continues to be a very good big movement. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.